Morning, morning, morning. Yes, we're back with another episode, another pair of lovely riders. Today we have a very harmonious couple, Tom and Steph. And Steph's in the photography business for high fashion or fashion. And we got an agriculturalist, is that right? Horticulturalist, sorry, on our hands. And that's...
My name's Tom.
Tom, you grabbed them?
Yeah, hello.
So, what made you get into the... Furthermore, where did you two meet?
We met our New Year's Eve at a party, mutual friends.
So being a photographer, I shoot on film. So I work in a lab where I hand develop and print all my work. And the lady that helps me print is my friend called Sarah. And it was her New Year's Eve party that we met at.
What's your first thoughts when you saw each other?
Well, I had some premonition of basically Sarah referred to Tom as Sexy Tom, and I was like, oh yeah, we'll have a scene there. I'll check that out. And then he arrived, and I was like, okay, I can conclude that yes.
That's very sweet. And I thought, who is this beautiful woman? Beautiful.
No, I was eating Pombears.
Golden hair. Oh, actually, you know,
I was eating a packet of Pombears.
You had plastic bags on your shoes.
Oh yeah, I didn't want to get my boots muddy, so I was wearing Sainsbury's bags on my feet.
And you were warming up with a hairdryer.
I had a hairdryer at my jumper.
Okay.
So it was love at first sight.
Yeah, or sort of, I don't know.
Strange.
It's a good warning anyway. It's warning signs.
Yeah, it was a curious sight. I was intrigued.
More intrigued than you are with your plant.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was a special flower.
Yes.
So why flowers? Why horticulture?
Well, without plants, there would be no life on Earth. We breathe oxygen, and all of the oxygen we breathe comes from plants. Plants are key to our survival, and there's more than we know about, and there's so much left to know. And they bring peace, and we eat food grown from plants. Everything depends on plants. The whole world relies on them, and I'm just curious about them. So yeah, that's it.
Where did your fascination for plants start?
Grow is a good word to use. From when I was a child, like my grandfather had a greenhouse, and allotment. He used to grow all of our food, or at least all of his food, and taught me how to cultivate from seeds and nourish his family. And I want to do the same, but I've just taken it to a further place with my.
What's your favourite plant?
My favourite plant. Well, I love trees. I think trees are. Trees are some of the oldest living things on the planet. Thousands of years old, some of tens of thousands of years old. The oldest tree is over 10,000 years old. And I find that amazing. It's outlived empires, and humanity as a whole has evolved completely underneath these plants. So yeah, I wouldn't be able to put my finger on exactly what tree, but
You said magnolia.
Magnolia trees. They blossom at the end of the winter. They bring an amazing scent. Yeah, and they're the biggest flowers. I mean, yeah, magnolias, I'd say. But I love fruiting trees as well, because you get to eat the delicious fruits off of them. So yeah.
Oh yeah, first, when you say fruit trees, apple trees.
Apples and oranges and lemons. I mean, I find it amazing how a beautiful tree can produce such a perfect piece of food.
Do you grow those kind of trees in
Kew? Yeah. Well, Kew's a botanical garden, so there's examples of.
They have the widest collection of plants in the world.
90% of all known plant species are contained at Kew, either in seed form or on display to the public, which you can go and see either with a membership or on a day trip. That's for your listeners. You should all get down there. And so they do grow some specimens, but the place has been open since the 1700s, and there's some exquisite old plants there that have been there for hundreds of years, which
fly trap.
Yeah, I mean, they're tropical plants, exactly. So that would be in the palm houses, and there's tropical nurseries where all the carnivorous plants are stored. There's lots of carnivorous plants that attract insects.
Those meat-eating plants.
Yeah.
How do they feed them? They just let a load of flies off.
Yeah, they'll let off some like pheromones that will smell to the insect like either rotting meat or something sweet, things that insects are attracted to. Instead of like bumblebees pollinating flowers, they pollinate by other insects that would be attracted to this.
No, but they eat the fly.
Yeah, so but that's
But then KewGardens will give them flies.
they draw them in, yeah.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
there's lots of different carnivorous plants here, that they have. Just go down and see them.
If somebody wants to get into the industry that you're in,
Yeah.
what would be your advice to them?
If you want to become a horticulturist, you got to have a sort of an existing kind of like curiosity about the natural world. After that, I think just get out there, go and visit some of these parks, go and visit some of these places, these botanical gardens. Just speak to people that are in the industry. You can study it. The RHS, the Royal Horticultural Society, has loads of programs which you can go on, and they can teach you the basics and then all the way up to advanced levels. And it's available, and more people should, because like it keeps you healthy and keeps you learning all the time.
Sounds like there's a big spiritual side for you in what you do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone who feels a bit stressed should just get out in nature if they can.
Okay, that's good. So moving on to the lovely lady, photography. Why? And what have you learned about photography and taking photos of models that you wish you knew when you started?
Well, I was a painter originally, and then being a painter in London is a bit difficult when financially you're depending on it. So photography kind of took over, and I started working at magazines like Dazed and Confused and taking photographs for them. And how many years later, 5 or 6 years later, it's going all right, but it's good. It's much more social than painting. There's a lot more to it than painting. It's a lot more. I'm too impatient, I think, to be a fine art painter anymore.
When you were painting, what kind of were you? Landscape, portrait?
It was portrait, and then I went more abstract. This is when I was living in Liverpool. And then, coming back to London from Liverpool, we have high rent to pay, and the pace is not much faster. Photography it's just a quicker turnaround, really. Basically, I've just got lazy and, but it is fun.
And the photos you take now, they're of models in the fashion industry.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learnt that you wish you knew when you had started?
To not compare yourself to all the other photographers and all the other artists at the time, because I think when you start, all you do is see how much less you are compared to everyone else that's doing what you want to be doing, and it's just really stifling and limiting, I think. So you just want to kind of just get on with it and find your own path with it and make mistakes, and then sort of end up in a place that you're meant to be in, rather than try and replicate someone else's journey, I think, with it.
Okay. Yeah, I like that word journey, because it's all about the journey. That's what we say.
Yeah, well, as I say, as soon as you think that you've kind of completed the journey, you're kind of
On to the next one.
Well, no, it's like all the biggest photographers that have done it for 40, 50 years, who've obviously found that they've completed their journey. Their work's really crap now, because they just kind of don't try anymore, and they haven't got that kind of vigor. Whereas if you feel like you're kind of moving forward and trying new things all the time, your work's going to keep progressing, and it's as soon as you think your journey's over, the work's going to suffer for it. So
where do you go once you become very good? Like,
a lot of photographers then start dabbling with video. I'm actually starting to look into augmented reality at the moment, and avatars and 3D scanning. So it's kind of like an elevated version of a still image, but not quite video either. And it's something that I'm finding really interesting, kind of talking with a few companies about.
Like producing skins?
Yeah, skins for clothing, for, apparently hair is really difficult.
There's a lot of money in that, I hear.
There's a lot of money, but it costs a lot of money, and a lot of brands are scared to put too much money into something they don't understand yet. So I'm working with a company now, trying to create like a kind of prototype that is a bit more digestible to the big brands that don't really understand it. But yeah, the idea is kind of create a more elevated sort of three-dimensional photograph, I guess, which is something I'm excited about.
Last but not least, what would be your advice to a young person trying to get into your industry?
Don't. Avoid yourself the pain. Avoid the bullshit. No, it's honestly, it's an industry for the privileged, because if you can't afford to spend thousands of pounds on a portfolio to even get a foot in the door, it's really, really difficult.
It's tough going,
So a big part of advice would be just to make sure you've got support to begin with, because otherwise you're kind of at a losing battle. That's why you get so many people in the industry that are just sons and daughters of like Mick Jagger or other famous photographers, or you know, someone's mother runs Louis Vuitton or something. You know, it's just a big lot of that.
Put yourself forward, like
But,
introduce yourself to people.
Yeah, the other thing about it is just working really hard, and it's just kind of a test of stamina really, and if you can put up with it long enough, you will eventually find you'll get something out of it. But a lot of people can't.
Just don't give up, basically.
A lot of people can't, yeah, just because it's financially and emotionally quite, you know, sort of brutal as an industry.
But how would you make that more
Positive, honestly, well, there isn't a huge amount of positive. The positive for me is that it works really brilliantly with my lifestyle, with how much spare time I get in between shoots. It means I get to travel, and it means I get to meet a lot of new people that are really interesting. But morally, it's not something I'm necessarily that contented with as a career.
Well, thanks a lot for that, and we wish you well.
Thank you.